Good morning. Good morning. I'm still waiting on Salty to hop up here with me. So it's just me talking to myself for now. I'm sure that's really interesting. Good morning, Forrest. Good to see you in here. Salty should be here in a minute. She's probably like refreshing her cup of coffee or something. And I know she was doing some deep diving into Karen Reed. I think she wants to do a live on Karen Reed later. So she might have got distracted by a bright, shiny object. Um, Good morning. Is today Wednesday already? It can't be Wednesday already. Oh my gosh, it's Wednesday already. Happy hump day, everybody. It's all downhill from here, right? Or starting at noon, it's all downhill from here. However that works. Um, we're gonna. There she is. Good morning, Salty. Good
Good
morning. Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Hold on, let me change my headset so we don't get reverb.
Uh-oh. Oh, goodness.
There we go. Good to go. You got your coffee? Are you good to go, Salty?
Oh my gosh, I've been up so long. I done had coffee and I done moved on to a blackberry Dr. Pepper.
Ooh, I am gonna have to try that. That sounds really good.
It is really good.
I
I'm
drink
kind
I
of
drink blackberry
obsessed.
I drink blackberry tea.
So do
Yeah.
I. I do. I have a blackberry tea that I found that I like, and I like it as well. So when I saw that they had me and my our youngest son, we always try out the weird flavors Dr. Pepper comes out with, and I love the strawberries and cream as well. And my grandchild, he rarely drinks a soda, but he does like that one. And so yeah, when I saw this blackberry one, I was like, oh man, I'm all over that. It's good
Yeah,
stuff.
and nice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to try it now. Like you talked me into it. Like I need a
Oh,
whole lot of
good.
convincing for that stuff.
Look, I got a lot of bad habits and I'm too old to change my ways. I'm not even trying or making excuses.
Oh, my coffee is decaf this morning. I got to keep my blood pressure
Oh,
under control. I could tell, I can just tell when my blood pressure is a little bit high. I don't even need to put on the cuff. I've got one, but I don't need to put it on. I can tell. Like,
oh, I can always
feels,
tell when mine is. It affects I can always tell, but I haven't had blood pressure issues in several years, so I'm not even on medication for it anymore. But I don't know if I don't get enough caffeine, I get headaches. So I don't do the decaf coffee, but I get you.
yeah, the doctor used to have me on high BP medicine, amlodipine and something else, and I didn't like the side effects. I did not like the side effects. So I'm like, I could probably control my blood pressure better if I just, like, through diet and exercise, if I just like get out and do something every day, go for a
Oh yeah,
walk, whatever. I don't
yeah.
need I don't need the whole pharmacy thing going on. But this morning I
Sometimes you
needed,
do because it
yeah.
will, if it's bad enough, you can lead to very bad things. I have eye damage from untreated high blood pressure.
Oh my.
So yeah, but that's why my eyesight's so bad right now. But yes, it's not nothing to play around with for sure.
No, no, it's
Take
not.
take care of yourself, man. We need you, Joe.
I need to at least make it through the Lori Vallow Daybell trial. We don't know
Well,
yet. We don't know yet if there's going to be, well, there's going to be cameras in there for the trial. There won't, I don't think the judge has ruled yet on the state's motion and on her motion. So
I,
the state said we don't want cameras in for jury selection. So that's probably going to happen. There probably won't be cameras there. I will be there. I think Kresh is going to be there. I think Megan may be there too. Trace on the case is going to be there. So you will have plenty of people to report on it. But there's going to be cameras in for the trial. Probably. She said she didn't want them, at least not court TV.
well,
But
she never wants them. She didn't want them in Idaho either.
right.
I say, Lori, you don't get to make that call. This is a public trial. That's the way I feel about it anymore. You don't get to make that call. I'm so over these defendants and their demands. As long as your basic rights are met, we need to shut up.
Yeah. I
Like I
guess
know
that's
it
up to
gets fed
Judge
up with it.
Boreski.
Well, yeah,
But the
it's not up
state
to
also,
me.
yeah, right. No. That's not what I meant. But I don't think Boreski's ruled on it yet. But the state requested a delayed broadcast, and I don't know if that means a 10-second delay, 2-hour delay. I don't know.
They're gonna need all kind of delays, and you better go get you some blood pressure meds before that trial starts.
Right? Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm not even playing.
Maybe
Hello,
maybe I'll
Doctor.
just have Lori say a prayer for me with her priesthood that she
Oh
got from
no, you don't.
Moroni in the temple.
She'll be inviting the spirits in by accident. Don't do it.
Maybe Ned will enter my body then.
You will get possessed by Ned. Ned's coming for you next.
Funny, not funny. I laugh and we're making jokes, but it's kind of not funny.
No, it's not funny, but we are. Sometimes we have to make light of this stuff, or else it gets too heavy.
We do.
There's
Yes,
enough heavy
it
stories
does.
out there. I saw one just a second ago that I'm going to touch on a little bit later, and it's not something I'm going to dwell on, but it's just so there's some horrible stuff going down out there in this world, and man, oh man.
Yeah, we're going to touch on one this morning too that involves another Mormon mom, but I think out of Montana. I'm just going to read the
Oh,
story
good
from
Lord.
People magazine. Yeah, it's very disturbing. So
So are these Mormons all just think they can get away with child abuse?
it wasn't that. That's not the case.
Okay.
It was.
Okay.
She supposedly was suffering from postpartum depression, and she
Oh
just did an
God.
awful thing out of her postpartum depression. Her family all said that's not her. We don't want to remember her for that, but she did a really horrible thing.
Well,
Before we get to
if women battle, and I'm a woman, and I'm probably going to catch a lot of hell for about what I'm about to say. If you're a woman struggling with any kind of depression, anxiety, go get yourself the adequate help you need before you have children. I suffer from PTSD and anxiety. I have 4 children. The thought of harming my children have never crossed my mind. This postpartum depression stuff, never had it. I don't know what that's like to feel. I know it's real. And the second they start feeling off, they need to go seek help right then. Stop ignoring the red flags. And if you got a husband that doesn't support you, tell him to get the hell gone. Then babies come first.
Yep.
Sorry, rant over.
No, it's true. And the thing about episodes like that and conditions of depression and anxiety and PTSD is if the people around you don't take you seriously and don't believe it, like they think you're faking it or making it up or that it's not that serious of a condition, that can compound it. Because if you have
You're
somebody,
preaching to the choir. I
yeah,
promise you. You are. I have battled this shit for over 20 years now, damn near 20 years coming up in March. A lot of people didn't understand it or grasp it because they were not in my shoes and experienced what I experienced. But I'm telling you right now, I know myself well enough to know if I start to have anything go on, I know to reach out for help. And we got to stop making excuses for it in this country anymore. Mental health help is out there. And if you are even thinking of harming your children, you need to get away from them kids as fast as you can.
right. And if somebody around you is acting funny, is saying things that are kind of
Acknowledge
weird
it.
to you, don't
Yeah.
just laugh it off. Don't just laugh it off. Oh, you must be joking. No.
Now, who would take that kind of stuff not seriously, right? If
But people
someone
do,
around
but
you was saying those
people,
kinds of things, why would you ignore that?
yeah. See something, say something. Hear something,
And
say
that's what
something.
exactly, and that's like the story I'm going to talk about later. If you see something, say something. Because if I notice something weird going down involving children, I might be the one to knock on your damn door, not the police. That's my mama in me coming out. Good morning,
Yeah.
JC.
Yeah.
Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for coming in and starting your morning off a little salty for y'all, ain't I?
No. That's caring. That's caring. I mean,
Yeah, I care a lot about
everybody.
the kids,
Yeah.
man. The kids stuff gets to me. You guys hit that like button on your way in now.
Yeah, take care of your mental health, take care of the people around you.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So you remember the other day in on Discord, you posted that thing about the Idaho 4 video of the report the next day where there was a white car in the background.
Yeah. Or a light colored sedan.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I just want to share that little video clip that I put together because I'm so proud of that. Like
You go right ahead. I
it's
mean,
very,
that's why
very
and
amateurish.
yeah, and this is something that I have known about, for a long, long time. I saw it when it first happened. It was very I got so much Idaho 4 stuff on some private playlists so I was going through some of the old stuff, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember this." So I put it in the Discord, and I know people have their feelings about it, and the phone didn't ping around that time, so we get it. Joe, throw up your banner. You're about to talk Idaho 4.
Right.
You always need that banner, man. This is theories and all that good stuff, people. But yeah, Joe did a cute. You did a good job. I appreciated it.
Well, it's the first. Well, first of all, a little background. So the local NBC station sent one of their reporters out there the very next day after they figured out that there was a major crime scene there, and he did a report from right in front of the house. And the house is in the background, but the road that goes between the house and the apartments behind the house is in the background too. And at about a minute and a half in, you can see in the background a car going right to left, but it's in the other lane, so it's really hard to see a light colored sedan. And then about 3 minutes in, you can see a light colored sedan going left to right, and because it's in the nearer lane, it's a little easier to see. And this happened like right away. People know this. People have known about this for a couple of years. So I'm not the first person to do this, but it's the first time for me taking that video from the local news station, doing a little clip of it, and then zooming in on that video, and then overlaying a 2015 Elantra like right underneath that, so you can compare. And it's low resolution, so it's really hard to definitively tell. But I think I don't think it's an Elantra. I think the trunk is a little too tall, or the hatch, or whatever you call the back end of it. I think the white part of it is a little too tall, but I'm going to share what I did just because I use like 5 different technologies to loop
Yeah,
this all
that rear
together.
end doesn't quite match up, does it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I think Firefly even agreed. She thought it was a hatchback. I can't tell, but it is a funky back end compared to the Elantra back end.
Right.
And
So
look,
look up.
even when the house was being torn down, there's a clip where this Elantra drives by on that little tiny road between the home and the apartments, and people were like, "Oh my God, there's an Elantra, and it's light blue. That's the real killer car." It's like people, it's just a fucking car.
Right. So look over his left shoulder up in the top right of our video, and
Can you
you'll
make
see
that
the car.
bigger?
I will. We'll get there.
Oh, I'm sorry for
We'll
being
get there.
bossy this morning. I'm in a mood this morning, Joe. I woke up in a damn mood. I'm like, what is wrong with me?
So part of the thing that I've got to figure out is I couldn't
Maybe I should medicate.
download the NBC7 video on my desktop, or my laptop, so I had to download it on my phone and take the clip on my phone, and I had it turned sideways, so it took up the whole screen, but it didn't save it that way. So we can't
Dude,
see the video.
I do all of my videos from my phone. I've told you that. I think I've made one from my computer because I'm finally
Right.
learning to navigate CapCut on the desktop. But I'm just so used to my phone, and I got this badass phone, so it's hard to get away from using it.
So I'll zoom in, I believe, after this initial thing, and just look up in the top right
Mhm.
corner, and you'll see that white car go by in the top right corner. And then
Yeah.
hopefully it zooms in. There it goes, right there in the top right corner. There, I zoomed in. There it is. There's a Elantra, and there's that car. I'm going to pause it when we come back around the next time and go to the third zoom in. There's one zoom in. And then here comes the second zoom in, and pause. Oh, let's back up just a little.
Yeah, the car's like speeding down Walenta.
And
But notice how you can see that car. And that's one of the things I want to point out to everybody. Back there on Walenta Drive, and I've shown video from this time period when the murders occurred, you could literally drive back there and watch and see that entire house from that road. You don't have to be in front of it or on the same street. You can drive right there where that car is at and see that entire house. All the lights on or off, all the things.
yeah, I think that
Stalker.
hatchback is too big to be an Elantra. I don't think that's an Elantra. Anyway,
No, and I don't know what time that reporter was out there, but 9:30 that morning, apparently he did return to the scene, according to the PCA and the phone pings. But they don't mention any phone after. It was only there for like, I think, what was it, 12 minutes? It sat around there for a second, somewhere near that home. But you know what I mean? I don't think it was that time because it was before the cops were ever called when they noticed that the car returned the next morning.
well, so my just amateurish interpretation of that doesn't, the trunk doesn't match an Elantra to me, but it's low resolution, so I don't know for sure. But the other
It,
argument is, well, his phone didn't ping there at that time, but he could have been smart in the end and left his phone at home that time, even though he didn't the night before, if that was him, wherever, well, he was driving around somewhere. So I don't
well,
know.
yeah, like
There's
I said, according to the PCA, he did return the next morning. I think it was about 9:30, stayed for about 12 minutes, and then left the area again. But it doesn't mention it coming back. Now, did he turn the phone off again and ride back around? And once the police and all were there, or did he just sit at home and watch all that on the TV?
right. And
You
who
know,
was it? Who was it that called 911 and at what time?
the 911 call wasn't placed to almost noon, and there's a discrepancy of apparently Hunter Johnson, Ethan's best friend, who came over to help the girls get into Xana's room, apparently used one of the roommates' cell phones to call 911 because one of the roommates was hyperventilating, one was passing out. There's we don't know. We've never heard the 911 call. It's a lengthy call. There's a lot of confusion in the call, apparently. These kids were terrified. Something horrible had just happened. But the 911 call didn't come in until almost noon because Dylan didn't call for 8 hours. So I'm
Right. So the
assuming
police,
that
the
once her
police
and
knew.
Bethany woke up and got up and realized, oh shit, something really was going down, that's when they initiated everything.
Well, then that means the police wouldn't have showed up and taped it off until noon 15ish, noon 30ish. So the reporter wouldn't have
Right.
been there until, so that was like an
Later.
early afternoon report, right? Like 2
Exactly.
o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
And
And
if,
we know that during that time, he was allegedly over in Lewiston at the grocery store. And they have him on camera in the grocery store.
okay. So
So
it doesn't jive for me,
no. But there were people
but
out there who wanted to say that it was him. But then again, like I said, they also want to put out blurry images and tell you what you're looking at and want you to believe it.
yeah, but it was a fun exercise for me. And I enjoyed
Yeah.
that little exercise in
Yeah.
exploring new technologies.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jeff H usually does that kind of stuff. You're the only one I've seen. Well, I don't pay attention to a lot of the I'm going to call them fringe channels anymore with Idaho 4, so I don't know what all they're. I mean, I do kind of know what they're all talking about still, but I don't like give it life. You know what I mean? But you're one of the only ones I saw take the time to actually try.
Yeah. And I figured some things out, and I still have some other things to figure out, like getting that stupid video to take up the whole screen instead of just the little part in the beginning.
It's hard on that kind of player. That's why
I'll figure it out. I'm
trial,
going to keep playing with it.
trial and error. I don't, like I
Yep.
said, I don't use the PC a lot for stuff like that because it's aggravating, to say the least, for me anyway. I have my own
Yeah.
way of doing it. You'll figure out your groove.
All right. Now, this is the disturbing story. So, content warning. If this is too much for you, then take a break. That's fine. You're not going to offend me, but this is a disturbing story out of Wyoming. Wyoming mom. So I was in Cresha's. So that's difficult research. Is Cresha Easton? She is Charles Vallow's niece, and she has her channel Difficult Research. I was in there in our chat last night, and apparently this lady, it doesn't say in this article, but apparently this lady is LDS. She's Mormon. So at least that's what they said in the chat. I haven't been able to confirm or deny it.
I saw a clip about this, but I didn't like view it yet.
Yeah, this is from February 13th. So this is almost a week ago, but it's a disturbing story. But the fact that it's related, or that this gal is LDS, may or may not have to do with it. I mean, I've talked before about how the LDS women in my life when I was growing up struggled with depression, and a lot of them were on Prozac. And I don't need to say who, can just tell you that I know for sure. So it's kind of a high demand religion, which is how Megan terms it, that may lend itself towards this, but postpartum depression is also common among all women. Yeah. Anyway,
not all women.
Right. It happens. I'll just say that. Whatever religion you are or aren't. Tranielle Harshman and 3 of her daughters died. One daughter remains in critical condition. Let's watch the video part of it. Let's go back to the beginning. Are we going to get an ad? Huh. This video file cannot be played. Okay. Then we're going to read the story then. Police in Wyoming suspect a mother shot her 4 daughters, killing 3 of them before calling a 911 dispatcher and then killing herself. Officers received a 911 call around 1:30 p.m. local time on Monday, February 10th from a woman reporting gunshots that occurred inside her home. They occurred. If she pulled the trigger, they didn't just occur, and that her daughters had been shot. The woman was later identified by Fox 13, the Associated Press, and KRTV as Tranielle Harshman. She told the dispatcher she believed her children were dead, and 2 of them would be found upstairs in their cribs. Oh my gosh, in their cribs. And the other 2 would be located in downstairs bedroom. Harshman, 32, also let the dispatcher know that she could be found in her upstairs bedroom, and she was going to do the same to herself. The dispatcher pleaded with the female caller over the phone for the female caller to remain on the line until responding units arrived. The female caller stated multiple times she could not do that, and it was too late. The call was disconnected. Officers arrived at the home and found 2-year-olds. So she had 2 2-year-olds, a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Yeah, I do remember now. I did watch a news clip about this on YouTube. I remember now, like a local news story video.
Yeah. So is postpartum depression still going on with 2-year-olds? I didn't realize
know that some women say it can. Andrea, what was that lady's last name? Andrea drowned her 4 children in the bathtub, and she suffered from postpartum depression. But her youngest one was very young. Her husband ignored all of her signs, even kind of went further to keep her isolated. And she was the first case, I believe, to come out and to use the defense of postpartum, that she legitimately had problems, and he did nothing to help any of that. But I don't know, how long it allegedly is supposed. I think women, once they have it, it can go on for a couple of years. Like I said, I've never had it. I don't know anybody that has personally, and I know a lot of women with a lot of babies. It's just one of the I don't know enough about it,
Yeah, I've known a few that have to various degrees. So obviously some of it is going to be more extreme than others, and some of them are going to suffer from it worse than the other. But I do personally know women that have suffered from it to one degree or another. but they survived, and all the kids survived. This is a horrible story. And maybe I need to learn more about postpartum depression, but the two youngest were 2 years old, so I definitely don't understand it. She sustained a single gunshot wound to the head. She was found alive. She later died in the hospital. The 2-year-old died at the scene. 7-year-old girl was transported to a local hospital and airlifted to another facility. So they started a GoFundMe for the dad, and Harshman's friend Brianna Baker told Scripps News Group that Harshman had mental health struggles, including suffering from postpartum depression. Stay humble and kind. You never know. Oh, I think what she's saying is what we were saying earlier, is that be cognizant of other people's mental health struggles. Stay humble and kind, in other words.
Oh, well, people should pay attention to their friends and their family and their daughters. I'm just, what's causing all the, normally there's a stressor or a trigger in life that causes, some people are just born with the, like if your mother and grandmother or anybody suffered with depression, with a lot of women, when you walk into a psych office, they will tell you thyroid 101. And 9 times out of 10, women have a thyroid condition that leads to anxiety and depression. And so there's a lot of different, and not just religious women are the ones out there harming their children. There's the ones who are very non-religious who are also doing it. It's just, there's a lot of factors that go into it. So I just know, personally, I recognize if I'm starting to struggle with something. But there's a time you need to walk in the bathroom and look yourself dead in the bathroom mirror and be honest with yourself. There's nobody else there but you. And if you want to keep lying to yourself, that's great, but I don't think you should. And then do everything in your power to be better and be better for your children. And if you can't get there, give them to somebody who can take care of them. Go figure out what's wrong. Don't just clam up and say, well, I've got depression and anxiety. Honey, we all do, apparently. Just like apparently there's a bunch of adults with ADHD out there who blame that for everything under the sun.
Her friend Brianna Baker said, "You never know what someone is struggling with inside of their mind. Tranielle was not the monster this tragedy makes her seem to be. Her loved ones don't want her to be remembered for her darkest moments. She was sweet, loving, and funny. Her children were her main focus in life."
Okay, we see that.
Yep. That's enough of that. But you know what? Now we're going to hit the Lori Vallow Daybell thing, and that's dark too, with unalive children too. So it's Wednesday. We got to buckle up. If you were a Mormon, we would say gird up your loins.
What the hell? Not loins.
Yes.
That reminds me of that damn book that Chad wrote about the love book about him and Lori and their fire loins and shit. No, don't talk about loins.
That is a Mormon dog whistle phrase, is gird up your loins.
What does it mean?
That means put on your chastity belt.
Oh, God.
No, I think it's a reference from the Book of Mormon. And as Jason Mao, we talked about him on Monday, said there are quote unquote war chapters in the Book of Mormon, and it refers to putting on your armor and gearing up for battle. But I'm pretty sure that's a phrase out of the Book of Mormon, gird up your loins. So I think they use that throughout the religion. I think there's even a song about it, one of their Mormon hymns about girding up your loins. It's also interesting. But I'm going to play a little bit from Kresha's live last night. So she was doing a live on one of the fringe friends of Lori's, I think, last night. But she brought up some texts between Charles and Lori at the very end there, right before Alex unalived him. And I had never seen these before. They're from the Chandler PD in their investigation. And they talk about Moroni, and Moroni as a reference is code word for Jason Mao, the dude that we went over on Monday. So she supposedly went to the temple and received the priesthood as a female from the angel Moroni, or from, she didn't say angel Moroni, she just said from Moroni, but she had met Jason Mao there. So Kresha told me that Moroni is code word for Jason Mao. And remember how we were listening to that first podcast and there was just like a weird energy and vibe to it, kind of flirty and just like weird? Wait till Kresha reads these texts between Charles and Lori. And I did not know this, that he suspected this, that anything was going on between her and them. So, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to find this. Where's it at? Where are you at, Kresha? Stand by, people. No, that's not it. That's not it. Darn it, I know I had it on here. I know it's a tab that's open. No, it is. But I literally have like 12 tabs open. Okay, there's Melanie Gibbs, Lori Vallow. Is that it? Yes. Okay, Lori Vallow, Daybell, analyzing. So now I know where to find it. It's fascinating text between the two of them, but it's also kind of disturbing because it's right there at the end before he gets unalived by Alex. And it's probably going to come to play in this trial. This is Kresha from last night. I'm going to, Forrest, do you know where Difficult Research is? Forrest, can you drop Difficult Research's channel in chat, please? She is amazing. She has been researching this from pretty much day one, from when her uncle was unalived. And she knows way more about this. She's forgotten more about this than I'll ever know.
7/8/2019 at 12:50 hours, Charles shared this letter to Adam, as well as a text message string he had with Lori regarding the letter. The following is a communication between Lori and Charles using the text message sent to Adam Cox. Charles says, "Can you tell me why you send my name and fictitious email to send a BS email about a book I am having him ghostwrite for me? It's fraud and a lie. There's no other reason for it other than to get him to AZ and have an excuse for his wife. You did this. I had nothing to do with it, and you know it. Also, he did not stay with us in November. I will find out." Lori replies, "You are wasting your time. They are both my friends," referring to Tammy and Chad. "Move on with your life. We are done. Let's just get through it." Charles. Oh, this is the quote of the damn century.
So apparently, Lori made up a story about how Chad was ghostwriting a book for Charles. That's just bizarre. I need to learn more about that. That's kind of what that text makes it out. But according to Kresha, we're about ready to hear the quote of the century. So hold on.
"You're destroying people's lives. Had I known you were spending hours talking to Mel and poisoning her toward Brandon."
So that's Melanie Boudreau, and Brandon Boudreau is the second case that she's going to be tried for, unless the judge dismisses it based on her motion to dismiss, because she's not getting a speedy trial on it. But she's going to go on trial for conspiracy to kill Brandon. Melanie Boudreau is her niece, and Brandon is her husband. And apparently he was possessed by evil spirits too.
"I would have said something. You're disgusting. You have had a serious disconnect. Otherwise, you'd send your lover Moroni," because that's Jason, right, "to come zap me or put me in a pod." Moroni to come zap me or put me in a pod, or you, yeah, him, do to Joe. I'm sorry. Or you, yeah, him. I guess do to him what you did to Joe or something. I don't know what that says. Or a pod, or you, yeah, him, do to Joe. Get through it. Are you going to go? Are you going to go to court to fine? I don't know. Otherwise, nothing will happen. You just hate it when your evil ways have been exposed. That is a lie. Lori says, tired of the way you are speaking to me. I will not stay married to someone who claims to be a priesthood holder and speaks to me the way you do. Charles says, me? Look at what you say to me. You've called me Ned and Garrett, and you call me off? Lori, go look in the mirror. All the ones you have in your damn living room. Okay.
That's
You
funny.
that's all.
Yeah. Do you know about the Mormon thing with mirrors?
No, what's up with all the mirrors? They supposed to look at themselves?
No. You put mirrors on opposite walls facing each other, and you see a bunch of repeated mirrors going way back. And they do this in the temple. And supposedly, if you look into those mirrors and spirits are present, you can detect either ancestors or spirits in those. That's like looking back into eternity or looking for, yeah.
Well, that's not the only place that believes in stuff like that.
No. But
That's
that's what
crazy.
this is.
I didn't know that they did, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have
They
those.
looking,
They have
they're
those.
hunting for them evil. They believe evil spirits are everywhere, apparently.
Well, we heard last night, was that on hers, that you can bring you can bring Satan into the temple with you, or was that Monday when we were looking through it? I can't remember. This is so many rabbit holes down this thing. I can't keep it straight.
Yeah.
Like there are so many fringe people on this, and there's so much of the religious aspect to it and the cult aspect to it, and it's hard for me to keep straight. Anyway, that is a Mormon thing. The mirrors in the living, or the opposing mirrors thing.
I can't stand a lot of mirrors in my house like that. I got one in the bathroom, that's where I'll need it. I don't like them. I don't want to walk by and see myself and startle myself all the time and shit. I've never understood people putting giant mirrors all over their living room. It's like, come on, man, we got to sit here and stare at ourselves in a mirror.
Well, I think, so Kresha believes that there's a tie to the Satanic Church of LDS. Like that's a thing that we're going to talk about. She's going to come on my channel and she's going to educate us on that. But if that's what Lori and Chad were doing, then she believes that was how JJ and Tylee were unalived.
When we were kids, my mom had this mirror that was cut like a leaf, and it was like had been her grandmother's, and she got it, and then we used to get that thing out of my mom's room, me and my sisters. And I don't know why or what prompted us to do this, because we were young, but we would lay the mirror on the floor, and we would all three lean over the mirror, because great grandma had like this 2-story house with an apartment on the top that her brother lived in. But anyway, when we would look into the mirror, we would call it great grandma's house. Like we could see into great grandma's house with this. It was weird. We can't explain it to this day. We all remember doing it, and my mom just left us alone. She's just like, whatever. But yeah.
And you were unaliving each other or other kids.
No, I don't do the evil spirits. I can get rid of those for you guys. The demons don't like me because I can dance in their flames.
Well, maybe you should come to Arizona to Lori's trial.
Oh, she don't want me there.
All right. We're just going to read a little bit more of this. I don't want Kresha to copyright strike me. I hope she doesn't. Please forgive me, Kresha. But this was fascinating to me, and I learned so much in her live last night.
Yeah.
I'll say, and you won't see it coming. You are in need of some serious help. I do have the priesthood, but you're the one having an affair. You're out.
Oh, did you hear that? He knows about it. This is the affair with Chad, but he also knows about Jason Mao, who he calls Moroni. So
yeah, he knew.
He knew.
Out of your mind. Think about all the things you truly believe about yourself. I'm the only one brave enough and loves you enough to call you on this BS, which is all it is. You've been horribly deceived. You asked me if it ever.
Whoa, that's a weird way to phrase it, though. He says, I'm the only one brave enough and loves you enough to call you on your BS. That is a weird way to phrase it.
Why?
Because he's still claiming that he loves her, and maybe he
He-
does.
I think he did. He just wanted her to get the help she needed. And it was falling on deaf ears.
Yeah. That's right. That makes sense. Okay. Gosh, this poor guy.
Or hurt anyone? And the answer is hell yes. Just look around you. You're destroying every family you touch. Right there. Lori says, stop texting me or I'm blocking you. I'll assume you are not coming to pick up JJ since you are off to try to get non-existent evidence against me. Have fun with that. Oh, we will. Charles says, I don't enjoy fighting with you, but you need to be stopped from destroying so many more lives than you already have with your whacked out delusions. You've made our beautiful gospel a thing of horror. That will.
Yep.
Ooh. He's calling her out. Like,
Yeah.
wow. He's totally calling her out, and he's totally 100% accurate. You've made our beautiful gospel a thing of horror. Of horror? No, horror.
I will stop. Just take care of JJ till you get out where you belong. Just keep me updated on how our boy is doing. That's all for now. Pick him up. I'm staying at my house, he says. Lori says, no, you are not. Jason Mal will make sure of that. Get a hotel or stay with Brandon, your best friend. So
she's not giving Jason anything, but she's using him and his position as a former or current at this time. I don't know if he was still a Phoenix police officer, but she's using that against Charles, that she's friends with a Phoenix or former Phoenix police officer.
So petty. Charles says, no. Is he on the lease? I'll have the police there if he tries. It's my house. And you go stay with your boyfriend at his hotel since he's making so much money writing a book for me. Lori says, okay, Joe Ryan, he is the police. He is retired. He is not on the lease. Even he can't do anything. Charles says, you leave when I get there and no issues. Lori says, you don't come. Stay in Houston until the divorce is done. ? So again, that was July 8th.
There it is. That's the link to her live last night. Go check it out. It's worth the watch. 100%. All right, so we're going to keep going. Hold on. I've got a Walmart delivery coming at some time. Let me see what time that's supposed to come. I don't think it's supposed to be here for like another hour or so. But if they get her early, I got to go take a break. Track order. I love how they have. Oh, it's 12 stops away. We've got time. If each stop is 12 minutes, that's an hour, or is 5 minutes, that's an hour. We've got time. We can keep talking about this wacky fringe apocalyptic belief stuff. So where did I want to go after that? Oh, so the book that Lori had that was dog-eared and she revered, a lot of other Mormons did too, actually. And I thought at first that it was a book that Chad wrote, but it wasn't. It was a guy named Tom Harrison. And it is an apocalyptic type of book. So I kind of want to go down that route a little bit. But first, okay, before we go down that route, let's finish looking at Melanie Gibb. East Idaho News did an interview of her. Nate with East Idaho News. And I learned some more about Nate with East Idaho News last night too in Crash's Live. Not everybody is a huge fan of Nate.
That's
People
because
have
they're not huge fans of mainstream media.
Yeah,
in
well,
my opinion.
not only that, but some of those people feel like he's a little too deferential to the LDS Church. So that probably means that he's Mormon too. So if you take the angle in your articles that are saying, Lori and Chad had nothing to do with the Mormon Church, like this is just totally fringe, really weird behavior and doesn't have anything to do with the church, then people who want to believe that it is a little more the responsibility of the church to keep people like this in line and not let them get so crazy.
So they think, let me, I'm trying to understand what, because I saw some of the chatter and I'm like, I'm not following. So they thought he was sensationalizing when they showed the house being destroyed, or do they
yes, they
think
also
he's
felt
not
that
fair?
too. Yes.
And but they don't think he's fairly reporting on the LDS stuff
Well,
involvement.
the way that I interpret it, and this is just my interpretation. So people that think this about Nate, I'm not saying this is my opinion. I'm just saying
I
that I'm
understand.
open. I'm open to other people being critical of him. I'm open to people being critical of me. I'm open to people being critical of you. I mean, criticism is
I get
criticism.
that. I'm
People
trying to
complain about.
understand why they don't, what they're upset about
Yeah,
with him.
so they believe. So those two things are what I heard last night in the chat. One, that he's a little too deferential to the Mormon Church, and two, that he was a little too sensationalistic during the demolition of the house and on that property where JJ and Tylee were unalived and buried in the backyard.
Didn't I tell you a long time ago, nobody was covering that aspect except for Lauren from Hidden True Crime?
Yes.
That includes Nate. I have no issue with Nate. I watched the house thing mainstream media sensationalizes everything. Now, they're all entitled to their beliefs on how they feel if he's Mormon or not. I could not tell you. I just never got nobody was really reporting on the connection with the church except for Chad's weird teachings. They did talk about that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I just have a ton of admiration for the fact that he tracked Chad and Lori down in Hawaii. Like he tracked him down and he went there. He flew
Oh
there.
yeah,
And
I remember the day he did it. I was watching it live on TV when all that went down. There's a lot of aspects about this case people didn't want to tune into, but they should have, It's crazy.
Yes, it is. So, all right. So this is the interview that Nate did with Melanie Gibb after the fact, and she kind of went into hiding for a while, and he kind
Yeah, I
of
don't blame her. I
her about.
mean, I don't blame her because she should have. She was she needed to go ahead.
No, JC, the trial is going to be in Phoenix. Maricopa Superior Court is where she has been charged because Charles Vallow was shot and killed by Alex in Chandler, which is why we watched Chandler PD interviews on Monday with Jason Mao and with Melanie Gibb. We learned a whole lot more about both of them. But yeah, Maricopa County, Arizona. It's in Phoenix, Arizona, downtown Phoenix. And it is going to be a circus since Lori is representing herself. I mean, there's no way to avoid it unless she stops representing herself.
And that's not going to happen, is it?
I've been waiting 5 months to talk to you, and you've been hard to find.
I know.
Would it be fair to say that you've been in hiding?
Yes.
Why?
When you realize that the people that you know and you're close to and love have been involved in something that has to do with kidnapping and people dying.
Oh, she won't say murders. He said people dying. Lady, JJ and Tylee didn't just die. Charles didn't just die. Tammy didn't just die. And I think there are a couple other people that are dead now that didn't just die, although it can't necessarily be proven.
You start to think, oh my gosh, are they going to come after me? Like, everything closes in, and you start to think about your own safety, and you start to think about what really happened, and could this really be true? I had all kinds of fears, what the media would say about me, if they would say it the way I want to say it, like I'm saying it now. I wasn't ready,
So why are you ready today?
because I faced all the fears, and then I decided that the truth was more important than what I wanted. And I needed to do it for those that have passed on, that justice may be served. I think it's fair.
So far to me, she seems believable. She's making good eye contact with him, and she's saying the right things. This is a lot different than the police interview that happened in Chandler that we watched on Monday. This is a lot different than that. I'm already getting a different vibe from her. But there are still people that believe she should have been charged with something.
You damn right.
Fair to
This
Charles
this
and
lady,
JJ.
this lady did everything she could to save herself, and now she's had an awakening and realized everything she believed with Chad and Lori was actually fake. But still, no, she can't come out and say they were murdered. I don't trust this woman as far as I can throw her.
Oh gosh, JC, how did Alex die? It was supposedly natural causes, supposedly. And I haven't done a deep dive in that, and I don't know a lot of the details, but he's the one that actually pulled the trigger. Supposedly there are people that believe that Lori pulled the trigger. I don't believe it. I think she had her little brother wrapped around, or he was her little brother, right? Maybe anyway, had her brother wrapped around her little finger, and he would do anything for her, including unaliving people. And I believe he did and was involved in unaliving JJ and Tylee also.
They have his cell phone pinging right there where, he
Yeah.
did help
Yeah.
unalive them. There's no question about it.
Yeah, but he's not here now to put on trial. So she was put on trial there in Idaho, and now she's going to be on trial in Phoenix, in Arizona.
JJ and Tammy and Tylee, that someone is standing up for what happened to them. And I care. I do care for them. And I care for the families that are involved.
And is that your goal in talking today?
My goal is to speak to the things that have gone on, and also to speak to many that believe their story of some of the things we're going to talk about zombies, to being a part of the 144,000, to multiple probations. These things do need to be discussed to those that do follow those teachings. And so
she's talking about the fringe beliefs of that cult group that Chad started and Lori joined. Visions of Glory is a big part of that. We're going to take a look at that. The church eventually distanced themselves from that book that was written by Tom Harrison and that she followed religiously. But eventually the church distanced themselves from that. And I've got a video on that, and we're not going to watch the whole thing of that, but it took them a while, I think, to distance themselves from that whole thing. My opinion.
I have a lot of perspective on that.
Would it be fair to say you know Chad and Lori better than anybody?
Probably.
And you know their beliefs.
Yep.
You know their activities. You know more about this story probably than anybody else other than them.
Yeah, I think so.
You told me the other day on the phone that someone told you needed to get an attorney. And what was your response when they said, have you gotten an attorney?
Well, how I responded to you is why do I need an attorney if I'm telling the truth? God is on my side.
So,
whoa. Are you serious, lady?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I need an attorney if I'm telling the truth and God is on my side? That almost looks like a smirk right there. I mean, I'm being judgy. I know I'm being judgy, but
I'll judge her. I told you.
God is on my side.
So let's go back a few years and talk about Chad Daybell.
Okay.
How did you meet Chad?
The first time I met him, he was at a conference or an event speaking about his last days, dreams and visions. And I just walked up to him and introduced myself to him.
Was that in
See, so there's a key. There's a key to this whole thing. Chad had last days dreams and visions. That's also a big part of that book by Tom Harrison, Visions of Glory, that Lori followed religiously and read the heck out of and dog-eared and highlighted and all that and took with her everywhere. So
Yes,
that had to do with the visions of the end times as well.
yeah. And Chad had all them believing that he could see all these visions, and they all fell for it, hook, line, and sinker, and trusted everything he said.
Yeah, JC, absolutely. You get an attorney, even if you're innocent, guilty or innocent. Get an attorney. Have them advise you.
Not if you're Melanie Gibbs.
No, God's on our side. All right, I'm already changing. So like the first minute went well for me, but it's going downhill fast now.
I'm telling you, you're not as, yeah, there's a lot that you're going to uncover that I already know that you're going to be going, okay, wait, what? And, getting different perceptions as you move through the case. This lady, is not trustworthy.
Is that in Rexburg?
I think the first time I met him might have been at a camp up in Ogden, I think. Somewhere in that area.
In northern Utah.
Northern Utah.
Were you impressed by what he had said there at the conference? Is that why you wanted to talk to him, or was it just a casual, good job?
I wanted to meet him because I thought his dreams were interesting. And when I met him, I thought he was a really nice guy. And anytime I saw him was at an event.
At what point did you become closer than just seeing him at events or, hearing him speak?
So when Lori and him met, that's when I started to get to know a little bit more.
Tell me how you met Lori.
So I was teaching a class at church one evening, and she was there, and she introduced herself to me.
And what was that encounter like?
She was very excited to hear the things I was teaching. And so when I went out to the hallway, she came up to me and introduced herself. And she told me about a lot of personal experiences that she had that were spiritual in nature. And
What was Melanie teaching at? So this is an LDS church. This is like this is the church that she's teaching a class in that apparently Lori got excited about. And that had to have been in Chandler. So she's teaching a class at the church, and Lori gets excited about whatever she's teaching. And then she starts to share her personal experiences with Melanie in the LDS church there, I believe, in Chandler.
we just hit it off.
So from there, a friendship developed.
Yep.
And what was that relationship like?
Wow.
In the beginning,
yeah.
What was it like?
So we talked often about our experiences that we had spiritually, and we talked about some of our trials that we've overcome, and we talked a lot about the second coming as well and how excited we are for the things that we've been studying and learning. And so just a lot of interest in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And we just talked about life and being a mom and, JJ being a handful, being autistic and what that was like. And,
Oh my God.
we just talked about our.
So the first time she meets this lady, she already starts complaining about JJ.
Yes, they should have took JJ back to Kay. Or she
Just
should have
as a
given to Charles. Because that's all we've heard is JJ was a handful. These kids, you knew the boy had problems when you agreed to adopt him. I've heard so many parents talk about their autistic children in such great ways and the ways they, learn how to deal with them and handle them. And I know it's a struggle, but Lori complained about him all the damn time. And let's blame JJ now because Mama couldn't handle it. Well, because was she depressed and stuff?
Yeah, Pokemon, can any member just start teaching classes? Yes, but you don't just put together your own class. Like the church has a very structured, rigid set of classes for specific people in the church. So you have a teenage class of a certain age. You have a preteen class of a certain age. Don't call it that. You call it other things. You have classes that are just for young boys that just got the priesthood, young men that just got the priesthood. You have a class for the next age group of those. You have a class for young single adults. You have a class. So that's probably what this was, honestly, was a class for single adults. You have a class for older single adults. You have a class for, I don't know if I ever remember there being a class for married couples. I really don't. I don't think they give a lot of support for those.
That was Jody Hildebrandt.
But once you have those classes organized, then the leadership of that ward, so the bishopric, the bishop in particular, will pick somebody from the congregation to teach that class that he feels is, called to do that. You get your calling to be that teacher for a specific amount of time. Usually it's a year, I think. You're called to be the teacher of a certain class for a year. And then you may get called to do it again the next year, or they may pick somebody else to do it. Any member can, but they get picked for a specific class by the leadership of the church, by the bishop in particular.
About our life.
Do you remember what year that was, Melanie, when you met her?
Yeah, that was 2018, about October.
October of 2018.
Mhm.
So you saw JJ, you saw Tylee, you knew that she was
Absolutely.
raising the kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And at what point did she meet Chad? Because you knew Chad and you knew Lori, but they were separate relationships.
Correct. So I met her first. Well, I mean, I met him, like within years, but didn't know him super close or anything like that. So then I meet her, and then her and I decided that we're going to go to an event in St. George. And so we drove down together, and then he was selling his books and speaking. And so that's when they got to meet. So that was probably October, November, somewhere in that time frame of the same year.
2018.
Mhm.
So did you introduce them?
I don't know if I did, or she just went up to the table. I can't recall.
And was there anything unusual or magical or different about when they met?
So we were there for 2 or 3 days, and I think he was there for 2 days. And she talked to him a lot about his books. And
So she talked to him a lot about his books. I can't imagine she flirted with him at all, while she was talking to him a lot about his books.
so she asked a lot of questions, and she was very interested in what he thought, and she was interested in what he knew.
Did you see her raise her eyebrows right there? We're going to go back and see that again. Watch her raise her eyebrows when she talks about this initial interaction between Chad and Lori.
Met.
So we were there for 2 or 3 days, and I think he was there for 2 days. And she talked to him a lot about his books. And so she asked
Watch
a
her
lot of
eyebrows.
questions, and she was very interested in what he thought, and she was interested in what she knew. And so they just started talking about these different beliefs that generally are not something you learn in church. And so they started kind of develop that connection right there. Mhm.
And were you kind of intergrained with all of it right there as they're talking about these things?
I am going in and out, and I'm not sure exactly all the things they're saying.
I
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
But it wasn't anything unusual. It would be if you found somebody at the church that had similar beliefs and you were talking about things, or was it a step further?
It was a step further. It was discussing the things that were not something you would talk at church. It was something that you would.
So she's distancing those beliefs from mainline LDS beliefs.
Talk closely with not a lot of people listening.
Did you know that Chad had a wife and 5 kids in Rexburg?
Mhm.
And did Lori know that?
Yes.
A wife and 5 kids. I didn't know he had 5 kids. But, I mean, they're Mormon, so why not? Why not have 8, 10?
And was Tammy ever with Chad?
No,
She didn't come with him to the events.
No.
And did his children?
not that I know of.
Okay. So where did their relationship go from there?
So after spending much time talking those 2 days, we went back to Arizona, and he came down to Arizona when it was the next event, which was in November sometime. And so many people
Oh, remember we just saw the text message talking about when Chad came down to Arizona in November, and Lori made up stories about him ghostwriting a book for Charles so he would have an excuse for his wife to come down to Arizona to visit her. That just direct connection with those text messages that Kresha read for us last night. Boom. There it is.
People. So some of my friends, some of Lori's friends, and then Chad all got to stay in her house. It was one of the larger houses she had, so she had plenty of room throughout her house.
Chad stayed in her house. So was she, my question is, were she and Charles already having issues and they were separated before that? Were they separated because of the thing with Jason Mao? So I think Charles had a house in Houston and she told, and oh man, this just keeps getting messier and messier and harder for me to keep track of.
House, and so they spend some time talking, and he spent some time talking to us as well.
Everybody stayed in this house.
That's right.
Chad, Lori, you. Was Charles there?
No, he went out of town.
He was out of town.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have much interaction with Charles?
A little bit.
And what was that like?
So when I did interact, it was just like the first time I came over, I believe we did a barbecue, and he was cooking barbecue. That seemed that something that he was good at, according to both of them. And there was swimming in the pool with the kids, and he seemed like just kind of a nice guy, just happy to see us, happy to meet us. I don't know. It was an enjoyable conversation. He was talking a little bit about his conversion to the church, and he seemed to be pretty excited about it.
How would you describe his and Lori?
So Charles was not born into the church and raised in the church. And there can be, not always, but there can be a little bit of an arrogance by people who do have a lineage in the church about people who get converted to the church, especially in the Mormon belt over here, Arizona, Utah, Idaho. And Kresha I kind of talked about that in our chat last night, or no, it was somebody else in our chat that was talking with me about it. And being a Midwest Mormon, I wasn't aware of that, but there apparently can be an arrogance of people who have a lineage in the church out here compared to people who get converted to it. So I wonder if Chad had more of a lineage in the church, and so she respected him more. I don't know. That could be an angle to it, an aspect to it, just something that was discussed in Kresha's chat last night. That was interesting to me.
Lori's marriage.
There seemed to be some arguing often when I would see them together. So he was trying to do things to help her and please her. And she seemed like she was struggling to be happy.
Struggling to be happy. He was trying to do things to please her and make her happy, and she was struggling to be happy.
By that, like she seemed a little often frustrated with him. They had something going on that I didn't quite understand, but there seemed to be a lot of contention between the two of them.
Did you ever see him lose his temper or become irate or angry with Lori or the kids?
Nope.
Did you ever see her
He was never, ever angry with her or irate with her or the kids in front of Melanie. I mean, obviously we don't know everything that went on between them, but usually when there is conflict in a relationship, that will come out in front of one of the close friends, at some point in time. I mean, it's almost inevitable because they get comfortable with the friends that are around them all the time. And then all of a sudden, things that you usually say to each other in private, you're comfortable saying to each other in front of close friends.
or become upset or angry with Charles?
Like vocally, I could see her, being upset. And he was frustrated back. So he might have had a little bit of that stress in his voice when you argue. So I would say just that arguing kind of a upset voice,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't there at the house the day that you guys were all there for that conference.
Right.
The conference happens, and what happens from there with Chad and Lori?
They just spent time talking about things. They went on a walk.
she's struggling what to say there. Like, how much am I going to really say about this? They talk to each other, and then she pauses. That's telling to me, maybe.
Walk together or jog in the morning together. I do recall that. All
They
the things they talked
Took
about.
walks and jogged together.
It's like so personal. It's so hard to share with the world. You know what I mean?
So it was very personal details.
So, well, some of it, you know, he was teaching us about some of his understandings about multiple lives and things of that nature. But at that point, he had already shared with her when they met in St. George that they had been married multiple times before. So,
whoa.
Yeah, there.
Is this his?
You didn't know that, huh?
I know I had heard that before, but this feels like she's talking about like early on in their relationship, like almost from the beginning. He's like bringing this philosophy to the table with Lori. So he's definitely infatuated with her, and she with him. I mean, we saw that in the police interview. Melanie admitted that in the police interview. They were infatuated with each other, but he's bringing this like multiple dispensations, multiple probations. We were married in past lives, like right away. Like he comes down to Phoenix and he's like bringing it hardcore. So people that say that it was all Lori, so that it's funny. This is where it's taken me because my brother lives in Salt Lake City and he and his wife and family are LDS. I have a lot of family members that are LDS, but he and his wife had a disagreement about this particular case, about who is primarily responsible for what happened. Like, was Lori manipulating Chad or was Chad manipulating her? And of course, my sister-in-law believes that Chad was manipulating her, and my brother believes it was more Lori. But listening to this is a lot on Chad. This is a lot on Chad. Like he's talking about past lives and past marriages and stuff. He's bringing like some really crazy stuff into this, like right off the bat. Oh boy. Buckle up, folks.
so
He
that
was a willing
established when they
participant.
first met.
Oh,
Chad
absolutely.
told
Absolutely.
Lori, when they first met, that they had been married before.
Like if somebody brought that to me, if some woman came into my life and we like had a mutual attraction for each other, and all of a sudden she starts talking about how we were married in past lives, I'd be like, bye-bye. Bye-bye. I can't get no. And not necessarily because that's not true. I don't know about lives. I don't know about past lives. I don't know about the afterlife. I mean, we all have our beliefs, but none of us know for sure. So I'm not judging people that believe that. But if somebody was trying to create a bond with me, create a relationship with me, and they were coming at me with that early on in a relationship, it would be a huge red flag for me. Like, so yes, she was a willing participant, 100%.
Before?
Not in this, you know, right now in this earth life, but in multiple earth lives.
In a previous life.
Mm-hmm.
And did Lori have an issue with that?
No, she seemed to understand that teaching already, that she had learned already through podcasts. So it wasn't something that was
Foreign.
Right.
So Chad's teaching this group about multiple lives. Is that what it means? Multiple probations? Does that mean previous life?
That's right.
So he's talking about multiple probations. He and Lori have been married before.
That's right.
And you all are discussing this. And is that when you decided to form a group? Is that?
No, there wasn't any group. It was just him talking to people individually. He wasn't even trying to express it like, hey, let's start a group. Nothing of that language. So, you know, a lot of people have different ideas about, is this a cult? Is this not a cult? And so we can talk about that a little bit later, but
Yeah.
We can talk about that a little bit later. Like, don't ask me about it now. I'm really uncomfortable right now. Look at her eyes. She's
I would just say from the beginning, what it felt like to me, at least, is he was just talking to individuals, and he was very kind of private. And so he would talk to her, and then she would kind of share with us. So he wouldn't get too overly involved talking to us. She would just more share what he would teach her to us.
And was she the only person that he was doing this with?
No.
There were others.
Mhm.
Other women?
Men and women. I knew of it already. Yeah.
I want to know what he meant by that question. Are there other people that he was doing this with?
And do you know, had he told other women that he had been married to them in previous probations?
I'm not sure about that.
But definitely he had told Lori that.
Right.
What was it like to witness this? I mean, did it seem like a normal relationship between the two of them, or did you think this might be going a little too far?
It was definitely different. The idea was definitely a new concept. I'm a very open person, so I don't necessarily think it's not true. And before I just listened to what they said. Did I 100% believe any of it ever? No, not 100%.
There she is again, exactly what she said in the police interview. Did I 100% believe it ever? No, never. So she gives herself an out. Like she's going along with it the entire time, but she's got like her toe. So she's in the pool, but she's got like her hand up on the edge of the pool so she can climb out if she wants to. Ah. USA, right? Tell me if that works. Let me know if that works. Because if it does, then I don't know. Maybe I'll start using it. I mean, I am in Arizona right now. I'm in the south end of the Mormon Belt, so maybe I'll try that.
% now. So when you get introduced to something, you kind of just, let it marinate. And so I just listened to them talk about it. I mean, it was not something that I knew anything about until they shared it with me. So,
And not something that you had heard at church or in Sunday school or in a manual anywhere?
Never. Yeah, it does not represent our church's teachings at all.
So they're going on jogs together. He's talking about these multiple probations. The conference ends. And what happens from there?
So he goes back home, and I just know that they're communicating on the phone every single day. I do know that.
Communicating on the phone every single day. So they became infatuated with each other, like right off the bat. She's buying into his married in past lives type of thing. But all the women in this group seem to be in love with Chad. And yeah, I don't get it either. Zulema and Melanie and Lori. But at the same time, there were men that were infatuated with Lori too. I mean, we looked at Jason Mao on Monday, and I think he was infatuated with Lori. I mean, like right off the bat on episode 1 of their podcast, Preparing the People, he's like, Lori is so cool. I'm like, dude. Anyway, I think multiple men were infatuated with her too. So it's I guess you have the two people at the top of the pyramid of who's getting people infatuated with him, connecting with each other, hooking up. And now Melanie says texting or calling on the phone every single day.
That, she would let me know. Yeah.
Did you ever think, she might be falling in love with him?
Yeah, I knew that they pretty much hit it off.
Did you wonder, hold on, she's married and he's married too, and they both have kids? Was that a thought you ever expressed to Lori?
Well, I did actually offer the idea. I'm like, why don't you just go ahead and get a divorce? And they were told that they weren't allowed to.
They weren't allowed to?
Yeah.
Because of church teachings, or?
No, something that they received through the other side of the veil, how they would speak about it, and said, no, we're not allowed to do that.
So they received like a spiritual prompting or a revelation, or
however he got his revelation.
However he got it.
Yeah.
Said, don't get a divorce.
Right. He wasn't allowed to, actually.
Was not allowed to get a divorce.
That's correct.
You said that it wasn't a group.
So that's a Mormon thing. getting a divorce in the Mormon church is a huge sin, if you will. It's like one of the biggest no-nos.
A lot of religions preach that,
Yeah.
even
Pokemon.
including the Southern Baptist. I get it. This more probably prevail, more of a dominant thing there. But even the Southern Baptists, you go to your counseling, you go to your pastor, you get all these things, because no matter what, you got to stay together.
Right. Well, in the Mormon church, so we've talked about, I think we talked about on Monday about perfection, about achieving perfection in this life. And one of the ways that you can assure yourself of not achieving perfection in this life is if you get a divorce as a member of the church. Members of the church getting divorced is a huge no-no. But apparently you can unalive your husband and your kids.
Look, I feel like God understands when it comes to certain things, because trust me, when I decided I was going to divorce my husband, I did pray to God to forgive me for what I was about to do, but I also knew he understood exactly why I was doing it.
Yeah, it was a big shock to me when my mom and dad joined the church when I was just a wee lad, 2 years old. And so it's almost like I was raised completely in the church, right? Like I don't have any memories not being a member of the church. And so when I left, when I was supposed to go on my mission when I was 19, I was like, I'm not sure I can buy into all this stuff, and let alone go out and try and convince other people to convert to the church when I'm not sure about all this doctrine stuff. So I left when I was 19 and went out and fell in love and got married young. And she was of a completely different religious background. At some point in time, my dad, who had been a member in my mind of the church my whole life, said, why don't you guys, if you can't agree on the religion thing, it's okay to get a divorce. And I was like shocked. I was shocked that he would say that of all people. But he was supportive of that. And it took a few more years after that before that happened. But that is just how deeply ingrained in me that was, of how horrible and awful that was to get a divorce as a member of the church.
Group or a cult, but do you think it became that over time?
I guess it depends on what you believe those words mean. A lot of us don't understand what those words mean. I would say it's teachings.
Hey, we got to hear that again.
Do you think it became that over time?
I guess it depends on what you believe those words mean. A lot of
got
us
to back
don't
up a little more.
However he got his revelation.
However he got it.
Yeah.
Said, don't get a divorce.
Right. He wasn't allowed to, actually.
Was not allowed to get a divorce.
That's correct.
You said that it wasn't a group or a cult, but do you think it became that over time?
I guess it depends on what you believe those words mean.
Do you think it became a cult? I guess it depends on what you believe those words mean.
Yeah, I think the entire LDS is a cult.
A lot of people do. And the church has tried to become more mainstream and appear not to be so. I think
they're not doing really good at that.
By the way, people, I appreciate each and every one of you in chat. And if I didn't feel safe with y'all in chat, I wouldn't share these like deeply personal things like these religious beliefs and my growing up and my divorce. These are all deeply personal things. And if I didn't trust y'all, I wouldn't share with you. So thank you all for providing a safe space for me. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. But she doesn't know what the word cult means. So it depends on what that means, she says.
A lot of us don't understand what those words mean. I would say it's teachings that you have the basic tenets of the gospel of Jesus Christ that we do as Christians, right? And then you have this doctrine that comes in that's not affiliated with any Christianity that I've ever read of. And it's not doctrine that comes from Jesus Christ. It comes from the adversary. And so that
she wouldn't say Satan. She wouldn't say Lucifer. So Lucifer is the term for the devil that they use in the Mormon church a lot. And she refused to use any term besides quote unquote the adversary. which is really interesting right there. She wouldn't say it out. She wouldn't say those teachings come from. So, Kresha, if you're listening, come up here and teach us about the Satanic Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because she refused to say it, but she's definitely like, if you read between the lines, she's kind of insinuating that these teachings come from that. Okay.
So that comes in, and it's enticing, because how many people do you hear even in the world that want to know about their future, right? Or they want to know their fortune or something like that. And so it's enticing. So you keep going more and more into it. And then you get to more information, and it gets you to ask questions that you shouldn't be asking. And then you learn these kind of things. And so you can call that what you want. I mean, I didn't see him forming any groups per se. Preparing to people is not a cult. They're people, very nice people, that have an event they hold, and they have different speakers. He just happened to be one of them, and they had no idea that he had these belief systems, nor did he know anything, nor did they know anything about their Chad and Lori's relationship.
So she just said preparing a people is not a cult. It's a bunch of nice people. You know what? A bunch of nice people can be in a cult. I mean, that's like the LDS thrive on being quote unquote nice people. You know, they invite you in to go play volleyball on Wednesday nights. But preparing a people, we're going to go more into that, because that book by Tom Harrison, Visions of Glory, was a fundamental aspect of that we're going to dive into more. Not today.
They had no idea.
Yeah, so that was going on separate
Yeah.
from the mainstream church and preparing a people. It was
Right.
this little
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
Would you say that you got sucked into it?
Yeah.
Or brainwashed?
I don't know. The brainwash word is, I would say, sucked into it. I don't know if you would call it a brainwash or not.
How often would you meet? Would you actually meet together? Or was this more done on the phone or on email or Facebook?
It wasn't anything that was planned. So I just spent a lot of time with Lori. So we spent every day together for a period of time, actually, especially when she left Charles that first time. It seemed like it was every day. It was close to every day. A lot of time together for at least a few months, and then it kind of spread out a little bit. I talked to her a lot personally because she was with me a lot, and he talked to her, but I didn't talk to him very often. Just occasionally.
So
when
he'd
I'd get a
call
chance.
her, and because you were with her so much, you
Yeah.
knew what they were talking about.
Right, yeah.
That's kind of the same thing she said in the police interview. The police said, so she would say, Chad said this and Chad said that to Lori. And the police were like, well, how do you know he said that? And she would say, well, because Lori told me he said that. So that's kind of hearsay. So probably not admissible in court. But I think we're going to have to pull up her testimony in the trial. Did she testify in both trials? Did she testify in Lori and Chad's trial, or just one or the other? But we're going to have to pull that up and watch that. That's another rabbit hole I just opened up. We're going to have to watch her trial testimony.
Exactly.
How did you meet Alex and Zulema and Melanie?
I met Alex for the first time at Lori's house. He often came over to visit. And I think Melanie too. I met her at her house, and then Zulema I met at church.
Okay, so Melanie and Alex.
So just for a refresher, I mean, all of you seem to be very more educated than I am on this case, but Zulema, oh, gosh darn it, my mind just went blank.
She was married to Alex.
Yes, okay, thank you. Because my mind wanted to go down the Boudreaux route, and I was like, no, that's not right. Okay, she was Alex's wife for about 2 weeks before he died.
Alex would come to the house while you were there with Lori. And
Mm-hmm.
What was that interaction like? What was that relationship like?
It was kind of fun and enjoyable. Alex was fun, and he was a comedian kind of guy, We just talk about all kinds of stuff.
Alex was fun and a comedian guy. I don't think that Charles or JJ or Tylee would agree with that. Just saying. I mean, she knows his involvement in those. And this is what she has to say about him. Wow, the level of depravity, like the disconnect, the cognitive dissonance of her being able to say something kind about somebody who was involved in the death of Lori's husband and JJ and Tylee is mind-blowing to me. All right. She has totally gone downhill after the first 2 minutes of this interview. I was like, all right, maybe this will be a good interview. And sorry, Melanie. Sorry. I just no
Stuff, sometimes spiritual stuff, sometimes non-spiritual stuff. It was in the beginning, it was just more casual because, Alex at this point didn't know anything about that until later on.
Would you say that Chad and Lori were kind of leaders, or at least they were working their way to be leaders of a group, of you, of other people that might follow their teachings?
So ultimately, yes, they did believe that they were the head of the 144,000. So, that's scriptural. That word is scriptural, right? But they believed that was what their assignment was. So I guess in some sense, you could say that they were trying to find people that would fit that group individually.
And all along, they're going to church every Sunday.
To a point, and then she just stopped going after a while, after she felt that Charles was kind of chasing her with the papers to be signed for divorce. She kept running, and so I don't think she went to church. So she hadn't gone to church in a long time. And
that's a big no-no. That's a big no-no in the Mormon church. You can't stop going to church. You can find another ward to go to that Charles doesn't know you're going to. You can find another ward to go to. No. Don't stop going to church.
And if she did go, it was very rare.
But you were going.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about burner phones?
4 hours of trial testimony is like 16 hours Joe time.
60 burner phones being
It's funny
used to
because it's true.
communicate, or
I don't know that word, burner.
it's like a prepaid.
What? Are you kidding me, Melanie? You don't know what a burner phone is? For crying out loud. You're not on the stand. You're not in a police interview. You know what a freaking burner phone is. Good grief. What is the date of this? 4 years ago. So it was 2021. This interview was 2021. Everybody in 2021 knew what a freaking burner phone is. Come on, lady.
Prepaid phone that you can go down to 7-Eleven and buy a phone and put 400 minutes on it, and then once it's done, you can get another one. It's not like you have a cell phone plan or anything.
Okay. What's funny about his explanation of a burner phone, and he had an answer to that right away. He's like, you can buy this phone, you can put 400 minutes on it, and then you can throw it away and go get another one. Apparently, Rex Heuermann didn't know that. He kept his burner phones. He had 7. They found 7 burner phones in his possession when they raided his house and his basement.
He knew it. He was keeping his souvenirs, what like serial killers do.
Yeah. But Nate knows what a burner phone is supposed to be, how a burner phone is
Of course
supposed to
he
be. I
does.
wonder,
He's a good reporter. He should know.
well, maybe he's used a burner phone too. I'm just kidding.
I mean,
Just
like
kidding.
you said, we should all know what burner phones are by then.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Did Laura use a lot of those type of devices?
Well, I know that she had about 3 phones, but they seem to be the same phones. So if she did those and threw them away, I don't know about that.
But she had 3 phones and was getting calls on all of them.
Yeah, it was hard to track her at times. You didn't know which phone she was going to pick up.
Why did she need so many phones?
Well, she had one special phone that her and Chad would communicate with, and he had a special phone outside of his cell phone number. So it was just.
Wow. They had special phones dedicated for each other that they could communicate on. And do you know why you do that? So your spouse doesn't find out about it. There is no other reason No other reason to do that.
Was just for their personal communication.
So one specific phone for Chad and Lori to communicate with.
Yeah.
And why could they not communicate on their normal phone?
I guess in case somebody picked it up and saw their conversations.
You think? You think?
Why do you think they were so secretive?
When you go to church in the temple, there's certain questions they ask you to see if your belief systems are consistent with the doctrine, and they were inconsistent. And so that's the reason you're going to be secret about it, because you think you know something more than they do. That at least that's what was introduced, is this idea we know more. So
introduce this idea that we know more. We know more than the LDS Church, and we're going to teach everybody how much more we know than the LDS Church.
If that got out, people would think you were unusual or weird in the church, right? And then they would say, hey, I don't think that you're allowed to go into the temple because of these teachings. So you're going to keep that secret, right?
Latter-day Saints need, if they want to go and worship at the temple, they need to go see their religious leaders, their clergy, every 2 years and get a recommend that allows you to go into the temple. But you have to be living certain standards. And you're saying Chad and Lori clearly were not living those standards, or at least following the doctrines being taught.
Correct.
But they were still going to the temple.
Oh, yeah. That was her favorite place to go. So she did actually go to the temple, but maybe not to church.
She'd go to the temple, but not to church.
Yeah.
So did you know that their teachings weren't in line with the mainstream?
Yeah.
And did you talk with her about it?
Yeah.
Okay, so she hesitates to answer that question in the police interview, and actually early in this interview. Did you know their teachings were not mainstream? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I knew. But I went along with it anyway. But I didn't ever 100% believe in it.
Yeah.
And what was the reaction?
Well, when she taught me, she was leading me to believe they were true. So there would be times where I'm like, do you think that's a good idea? Or do you think?
When she taught me, she was leading me to believe they were true. So she's claiming to not be able to detect for herself whether or not something is quote unquote true. She just said, when she taught me, she led me to believe they were true. We're going to have to listen to that again, because this is a whole nother level of distancing herself from this, which makes absolutely no sense to me. No sense. Could it be maybe the devil? Could it be maybe?
Talk with her about it?
Yeah.
And what was the reaction?
Well, when she taught me, she was leading me to believe they were true. So there would be times where I'm like, do you think that's a good idea? Or do you think this is, those kind of thoughts?
Lady.
But I just kind of didn't voice a much opposition to it, but just more listened, just more listened.
Was there ever a time where you thought, whoa, this is too much? This crosses the line.
Well, I always thought this is a little unusual, especially, we'll get in talking about later about the zombie thing, but that was definitely unusual. That was hard to completely believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite unusual.
Did you?
It was quite unusual. Oh, right, Tiff. Oh my gosh. Well, so what she's doing now is she's doing damage control. So she's telling us what she wants us to believe she did in that moment. And I don't necessarily believe that's what she did in this moment. I think she bought into it and she went along with it. And she was complicit in a lot of things that were wrong. A lot of people think she should be charged with something, but she's telling us right now what she wants us to believe she was thinking and doing at that time. So she's just in damage control mode right now. She's probably
Opposing.
lying. Yeah. Pour yourself a bourbon.
Dude,
Wait.
I can't with this lady. I haven't been able to do. I haven't been able to deal with her for years.
I was on
That's
board
what
for 2
Pop her.
minutes, and now
No.
20 minutes. Yeah.
Did you feel, or did they make you feel special or chosen as they're teaching you these things that you are?
Okay, Nate, that's a little over the top. Watch his face as he says special or chosen, because those are Mormon dog whistle words too. Special and chosen. Special not so much, but chosen definitely. So let's watch his face and his eyebrows when he asks her this question.
Completely believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite unusual.
I'm teasing.
Did you feel, or did they make you feel special or chosen as they're teaching you these things that you are one of the elect and you need to be with us?
Elect, another dog whistle word.
And how did that make you feel?
First, I thought it was me. Who, me? Right. So first you have that feeling of, I don't feel like that's something, because I didn't get that personally from God, so I thought it was unusual. So she kind of had to keep talking me into it. That makes sense. Like, you really are, you need to believe this, and with much enthusiasm.
She had to keep talking me into it. She had to keep talking me into it. Lady, if you don't believe it, just go away. Just like tell your friend that, hey, you know what? I want to be friends with you, but I don't believe what you believe. So we're just going to have to believe different things, but we can still be friends. But I don't want you to unalive your husband and kids. She just, her word salad around this is just amazingly, I don't even know the word. I can't even describe it.
Enthusiasm.
How did Lori describe your relationship with her?
I would say she would call me a best friend or either a really good friend.
And you all knew each other in previous lives?
Well,
okay, she just said, well, I would think that she would call me her best friend or a good friend. So Melanie thinks that she is Lori's best friend, but she is not 100% sure that Lori thinks that Melanie is her best friend. Did you catch that? Do you understand where the power was in that relationship between Lori and Melanie? That was so telling right there. All right, we got to go back one more time. This is why the 6 hours, 4 hours of trial testimony would become 6 hours in showtime. Because, like, I read too much into stuff sometimes, but I can't help myself. That's just who I am.
Describe your relationship with her.
I would say she would call me a best friend or either a really good friend.
And you all knew each other in previous lives?
Well, she claimed that we did, but I have no memory of that.
They obviously made you feel very special, made you feel like you were elect, that you were chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And as things progressed, did you gradually come to really believe that and say, yeah, I am one of the chosen ones?
To some level, not 100%, but to some level. Mm-hmm.
Were their beliefs and this belief system written down or recorded in any way?
Yeah. There was paperwork that showed all the 12 apostles to the Old Testament apostles, prophets, people in their...
I want to see this paperwork. So the 12 apostles is a Christian thing, but it's also a Mormon dog whistle because they believe that there was a splitting off from the Catholic Church. So the Mormon Church believes that the Catholic Church is a big evil thing entity, and that the popes and all of their authority and their divine authority was canceled at one point in time shortly after Christ was crucified. And that the Catholic Church was so evil that they lost the authority, and that's when Joseph Smith found the golden plates, and the authority was bestowed upon him in the early 1800s. And that's what led to the quote-unquote priesthood. And the Mormon Church is the only one that holds define authority, to give blessings, and to operate in basically in the name of God. And that the Catholic Church doesn't have that. None of the Protestant churches have that. Obviously, the non-Christian churches like Buddhism and Islam, none of those have any authority. Only the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has the authority to operate on the earth at this time in the name of God. So this is the 12 apostles is like a dog whistle for that doctrine.
The friends that they knew currently, to maybe some movie stars or people, just in general, they had like maybe 4 pages. I don't know how many pages. And that was created by Chad. And he would say, well, these are who they are. This is what lives they live. This is how many times they've been on. So yes, it was a whole document. It was a whole plan. I mean, they would write down on paper, like, this is how many lives, this is what it needs to get to this level. You need to go to this many. I mean, it was quite the plan, if that makes sense. It was quite the
Detailed.
list. I mean, it was, and I know that Charles was aware of it because he sent it out to a lot of people.
So Chad came up with all of this on his own.
That I know of. I don't know if he got it from anywhere else. I've never heard that before.
So Chad came up with all of this on his own. Yeah, I haven't heard of that before. That is a really interesting question and answer. Really interesting. Chad came up with all of this on his own. Yeah.
And movie stars were on it.
I think so, or either he told us personally. I didn't look at the whole list, so I can't say. I just kind of browsed it a little bit because I didn't feel like it was for me to look at.
Yeah.
So I kind of skimmed it a little bit. So,
can you tell me about Chad and Lori sealing themselves in the temple to each other? And for those people that aren't familiar, couples will go to the temple and be married and sealed together, meaning they believe that the relationship will continue after this life ends. Did Chad and Lori talk about what they were doing in the temple together, which would be against church policy and procedure?
right. Chad didn't tell me, but Lori did.
What did she tell you?
And she just told me they went together and they felt that they were sealed by those on the other side of the veil that had the authority to do that.
So they
were sealed by those that were on the other side of the veil. That is really, really, really deep LDS temple stuff. And I've only heard it from other people because the only time I did anything that was close to that deep was when I was like 2 years old, when our family was sealed in the Mesa, Arizona temple. But I have heard other people tell me about people on the other side of the veil, and she may or may not be referring to people in the spirit world, or she may also be referring to people in the natural world on the other side of the veil, because there are physical veils in the temple. So I'm going to have to do more research on that and get back to you. But those are more dog whistle terms and words. I'm sorry. There are a ton of them, and I'm trying to help you the best I can based on my personal knowledge and experience. But this one is a little bit deep for me to figure out exactly what Lori meant by that when she told Melanie that they were sealed by people on the other side of the veil. Lisa, no, non-Mormons are allowed in the temple before it is dedicated. So there's an official dedication. So the temple gets built, new temples get built, and non-Mormons, like the public, are allowed to go and tour it before it gets dedicated. But once it's dedicated, you have to be a member of the church, and you have to have an active temple recommend to go inside the temple.
They were in the temple together
Right.
when this happened.
Right.
Yet she's
That's
still
right.
married to Charles, and he's still married to Tammy.
Correct.
And when you would raise this with them, that, hey, you're still married, what was their reaction, or at least Lori's, because I'm sure you never had a chance to talk to Chad about it.
She said that it was okay that they did this because they had been married so many times before that their spouses would understand someday.
Lori, from what I understand, said that she has been on 21 planets and Chad has been on 31. Have you heard that before?
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say planets, but I would just say lives.
Lives.
Mhm.
So she's had 21 lives
Mhm.
and he's had 31.
Mhm.
That he was a whole
Did you catch that? She's had 21 lives and he's had 31. This is definitely very, very fringe LDS belief. Like I remember something about dispensations and probation and stuff like that, but it was like above my head at the time. But it is kind of rooted in some LDS doctrine that they're talking about multiple lives and probations and dispensations and all of that stuff. So it's out there, and the church will distance itself from it. But I do actually remember something similar, hearing something or learning something similar to that in one of my higher level classes when I was a little bit older.
the Holy Ghost and has had 5 lives on this earth, and she's had 4 lives.
Correct.
And
Well, no, I think she had 5 lives on this earth.
she had 5 lives on this. They both had 5 lives on this earth.
I believe so.
So if she had 21 lives and he had 31 lives, but they both had 5 lives on on this earth, does that mean they had multiple lives on other planets, on other worlds, on other earths? That is definitely LDS teaching.
And Chad made a portal in Lori's closet so she can visit him. What does that mean? That sounds kind of crazy, I'll be honest.
It does sound crazy. So a portal is something that he created for her. I don't know exactly how he did it, but maybe
Like a box?
no, it's just a spot where he just maybe said a prayer or however words he.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about this for a minute, and I'm talking about chat. I'm not talking about Nate and Melanie here. I'm talking about this whole other worlds type of thing, and L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology, Mormonism. If you do the best you can to perfect yourself in this life, and you follow all of the teachings of the church, and you do all the things you're supposed to do, like go on a mission. So first you get baptized when you're 8 years old, and then you go to church every week, and you do fast and testimony meetings once a month, and you go on your mission. I think it's 18 now. It used to be 19. When you go on a mission when you're 18 or 19, and you come back and you get married and sealed in the temple, you get your endowments, and you continue to serve in the church. And then when you're an older couple and you retire, you can go serve a second mission when you're like in your 60s or 70s. And then you pass away and die, you make it to the celestial kingdom, so there are 3 levels so there's the terrestrial kingdom, the celestial kingdom. Telestial is the lowest. L is for lowest. Telestial, terrestrial, and celestial kingdoms. So there are 3 different kingdoms in the afterlife. The celestial kingdom is the top kingdom, but there are 3 levels of that, and there's the highest level of the celestial kingdom. And if you, by your acts and the actions that you did in this world, make it to the top level of the celestial kingdom, then you can and will become a god, and you will have your own world to be the god of, and to procreate, to populate that world that you're the god of for the rest of eternity. This is deep, deep LDS teaching. And I'm probably going to get cast into outer darkness for sharing this all with you. And outer darkness is if you don't make it to telestial or terrestrial or celestial. Like if you leave the church and you share things that aren't supposed to be shared outside the church, then you're going to get cast into outer darkness. And that supposedly is worse than hell. So that's probably where I'm going. But yeah, you will at the top level of celestial kingdom, you become a god, you have your own planet, and you populate that planet for the rest of eternity with the spouse that you got sealed to in the temple. So that's probably why she's so devout to Chad right now, because he and her are going to populate their own planet for the rest of eternity if they make it through this life okay. Yeah. So I know it's complex, but that's what I learned. And when I said that, so I was supposed to go on my Mormon mission when I was 19, and I gave a talk in church, and I just said what I told you guys out loud. And when it passed my lips, I was like, holy crap, what is this stuff that I'm saying that's coming out of my mouth? I don't believe it. And there's no way that I can convert other people into believing this too. And that's when I left the church. Boom. Just right there with that knowledge that what I just said to you didn't register with me at all. At all. Anyway, that's actually a deeply personal story that I have shared with very few people throughout my life. And this case is bringing it out in me because of the fringe beliefs that beliefs like that lead to. And the church eventually distances themselves from, like the reincarnation and past lives thing. I never heard of that ever in my growing up in the church ever. So their beliefs were definitely beyond fringe. And unaliving other people is way beyond fringe for the church. But yeah.
He uses to create this portal. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know.
Sure.
Right,
But
V, I did.
it's not like he could come through it physically, but it was a way for them to interact spiritually.
I see.
Yeah.
So it was a sacred area where if she wanted to connect with him, she could go sit and then they would have a connection. What do you think about that?
I thought it was different. I thought, how do you do that? Like, do you have to have some special skills to do that? I didn't understand how people could do that, but I don't know. It was pretty extreme, but to me, everything was new, and I just thought, well, these people know things that I don't know about this stuff. So
it seems to me, though, that all along you were kind of at the back of your mind questioning, not blindly believing everything they said, but somewhat skeptical. Would that be an accurate?
Yeah. I mean, if you were to talk to Lori, she'd probably say I believed it.
Oh, she's hedging her bets again. So you were kind of skeptical. Well, yeah, if you asked Lori would say that I believed it. She is so hedging her bets.
But there's always a little bit of doubt because I know she also had doubt. And she, on occasion, 2 or 3 times said to me, if Chad is Satan, he sure is a good one. So that tends to lead me to think that she wasn't 100% convinced either.
That she may have doubted Chad too.
Yeah.
And she said, if Chad is a Satan, he sure is a good one.
Yeah.
What? If Chad is a Satan, he sure is a good one? Are you kidding me? What? We got to hear that again. I never heard that before. This is the first time for me.
So that tends to lead me to think that she wasn't 100% convinced either.
That she may have doubted Chad too.
Yeah.
And she said, if Chad is a Satan, he sure is a good one.
Dude.
Yeah.
Dude.
Do you know, did she ever tell him that?
Not that I know of.
Or raise questions with him that
I don't know.
you don't know? You talked a little bit about Alex. What was he like with Zulema? Did you have much interaction with the two of them?
Just a little bit at the end, because they didn't know it. Well, they didn't get together until the very end. So they were just developing a friendship.
And you met Zulema at church.
Correct.
Okay. And what was Melanie Boudreau like?
She was, she's fun. I really love Melanie. We did have a special relationship. She loved me and I loved her. And so she seemed that she had a lot of strife going on in her life. And she was really worried about her family. And so we had conversations about what was going on to some level. I mean, I wasn't as involved with their conversations as Lori and Melanie were, but as far as I went, we just were a support of, to each other, I think.
Would it be fair to say that you, Chad, Lori, Melanie, Alex, Zulema, you six were kind of a close group of friends, kind of a tight-knit family in a way?
Yes.
So you all would spend a lot of time together, and during these meetups, over dinner or whatever, you talk about religious things, the mysteries of God, things like that.
Forrest, yeah. Lori caused strife. I think somebody in the chat earlier, maybe it was V, said that she thrived on chaos, and I can definitely see that. I definitely see that. She thrived on chaos. If it was somebody besides V, correct me. I don't remember. I can't go back and find it now.
Sometimes we didn't meet together as a group like a close friendship group together very often. We met on a very rare occasion together, all of us. We more like saw each other here or there, or talked on the phone, or took a drive here together. But that kind of, like you would a friend. You don't always get together as a group, but yeah.
And was it always religious talk?
Pretty much, I would say so.
Not a lot of other talk about politics or the weather.
No, politics.
Sports.
Probably not politics and sports. No, I wouldn't even talk about that.
Sure, yeah. Gardening, whatever.
I would talk about gardening.
So it was mainly religious talk when you'd all get together.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Nate. Thank you for that. That was part 1. There's a part 2, and we get into a zombie discussion in part 2, but we're going to save that for Friday morning Joe Schmoe. We've been going for 2 hours now, and that's enough for me today. I think my blood pressure is down a little bit, actually. This is therapeutic for me. But thank you all for being in chat with me. Thank you so much for being supportive and understanding. I shared a lot more today than I usually do. Something's wrong with me. Salty, something's wrong with me. Save me from myself. Save me.
Dude, look, I would, but I made a pact with myself a long time ago. I cannot be anybody's savior. I mean, I'm teasing.
Right.
No, I mean,
no,
I'm not
right.
out to save. Yeah, I mean, people want me, save me, be me, you complete me, all that. Dude, you're doing good, and you're finding a release. You know what I mean? And you're comfortable now to open up. I open up about my personal stuff on my channel, and you're helping people. So you do you. And maybe your blood pressure is down because you were able to release some of that.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. Thank you all for being here for me this morning. We're gonna watch part 2 on Friday morning. We're gonna watch part 2. But before we go, we're gonna watch a little Charlie video. This is actually a couple minutes long. He dances for his dinner, and I think this is a dancing for your dinner video. So just enjoy a little bit of Charlie vibes. I miss you so much, buddy. I miss you, Charlie. And I will catch you all later. Salty, you're going to go live with some Karen Reed stuff later, right?
I'm going live in 30 minutes with some case updates, and we're going to start our dive into the Karen Reed case and some Sarah Birchmore stuff.
All right. It sounds Sarah Birchmore. Some Charlie time, guys. Enjoy my BFF. And we will catch you on the flip side. Go sub up to difficult research. Dang it, I need to drop her. Hold on. I need to drop her link in here real quick, because you need to sub up to difficult research, because she is the expert on this case. She is the expert. So I'm going to drop that first, and then I'll play the Charlie video. Boom. Copy and paste. There we go. And if you're not subbed up to Salty, I got to copy and paste that too. Copy and paste. Now we're good to fade out with some Charlie. Oh no, Sinead, I can hear the sound.